This will be about a 30 to 45-minute discussion. So thank you for your time. I'm gonna mute myself.
Whoa, Kel, are you on vacation right now?
No, I just my I'm at my family's home right now. My mom has a very certain style of like dining room, and it looks super bougie. And I feel weird. I feel like I look like a silver spoon kid. So I was just like, all right, virtual background.
Wait, you were looking back at the background like it was real. I was like, wait, is this guy looking? I'm looking at it like, damn, that's beautiful. You fooled
I
me.
wish. That would be nice.
You looked at it like it was real.
Too.
That was funny.
Can you hear me over the sea turtles?
Not really.
Man, get out of here.
The wind's crazy on your end, man. The wind's crazy.
Get out of here with that. That was funny.
We good to go?
Yeah, let's get started.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So thank you everyone for both joining and to our 6 guests for getting in touch to be involved with this tonight. I think a good place to start would just be with a brief introduction. So I'm Ellie. I am a writer and creator. I've been working with Cary for about a year now. I think we started working together for a few bits sometimes because about a year ago now at the beginning of the pandemic. So yeah, we just wanted to take things in a bit of a different direction, I guess, by doing like a panel about being a freelancer, especially like now as we've come up to like a year of the pandemic. So yeah, that's me. And if anyone wants to introduce themselves, Cary.
My name is Cary. Again, thank you all for joining. Ellen and I, yes, we've been working since last year before the pandemic. And this year, we just wanted to figure out a way to reach our artists and give them a platform to just be. So I'm an artist myself. I figured these discussions, these topics are very relatable for us all. So thank you all again.
Hi guys, my name is Ahab Mullick. I'm a writer-director from Northern Virginia. I recently started working with Cary and he told me that this would be a panel about working through the pandemic, and I was really interested in coming on and guest moderating.
And then we have Mohammed. Go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Hello. My name is Mohammed Kairis. What's happening, everybody? I'm an actor, artist, and I'm just here as your virtual bouncer. If anyone should come with any type of sideways energy, I will be out here kicking them out with the swiftness. But absolutely, so excited to be in this room with y'all, truly.
Thank you, and we can start with our artists now. Who'd like to go first?
Hi, my name is Peyton. I am an artist and musician. I'm from Houston, and I connected with Cary a couple of years ago, and I'm super excited to be discussing these issues and things with y'all.
Hi everyone, I'm Fizzle Ajay and I'm a documentary film director based in New York. I actually went freelance this year, so this is just like so timely for me, and yeah, really excited to be on a panel with everyone, hear perspectives and just share some insight.
Hello, my name is L Lewis. I'm based in Atlanta. I am a creative director and stylist and artist, kind of like a hybrid all in one. I've been following Cary for a while via social media, and I just thought this will be interesting to be a part of. So thanks for having me.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marta. I grew up in Connecticut, but I'm based in Rome now, and I'm coming to you from Florence at a place called Numero Venti, where Cary spent some time as well. I'm a painter, and yeah, just really excited to hear about all of your experiences this past year and to share about how we've all been going through it.
What's up, y'all? I'm Jared. I'm a director. I'm from Texas originally, so that's how I know Cary. Small community out there, you know, everyone supports each other. But I'm based in New York now, and excited to talk to you all about this year.
Hi, I'm David. I am a designer and writer and curator, and I was recently based out of New York. Now I'm in LA for a little bit of time, and I met Cary through Instagram, and I also became a freelancer this year. So I've had a very interesting experience, kind of that's of only knowing freelance life during a pandemic. So I'm excited to hear from you guys and talk more through that.
Thank you. It's really interesting that like a few of you kind of like got into freelancing just this year, which I guess that would be quite interesting because my first question for all of you really is how have you adapted to being freelance in this past year? So it'd be interesting to hear like what it's been like just becoming a freelancer in this year versus like those of you who have been doing this for a bit longer. I don't know who wants to go first.
I'm happy to chime in. Yeah, I mean, so I took a massive leap, leaving a full-time position to going freelance in a pandemic, which a lot of people are like, you're crazy, why are you doing it? Like, but my role, I used to run a documentary film company, and doing that kind of job, you're overseeing a lot of different things. I'm managing producers, creatives, editors, writers, just the business operations. And I felt like it was taking me away from the actual like craft and the art of storytelling. So I knew that I really wanted to invest in myself and get back to what I had done previously, which was, you know, tell stories, create beautiful films. So that's why I decided to kind of take that leap and go freelance. So for me, it's been an interesting journey. I think that I've, you know, sort of gone into it knowing that I'm going to really have to hustle like super, super hard because a lot of productions aren't being done in the same way. I'm not meeting people in person like I would before. So doing a lot of like virtual networking, joining all these different groups. And there's just communities of people that I've met, but I just haven't met them in person. And I don't know when I will, which is kind of weird and strange. But I just like launched myself straight into it and was like, yeah, this is what I got to do. You just got to hustle. So yeah, that's my story.
Quickly, I have a question since
Yeah.
I'm gonna let David also answer, and then I have a question for you both.
I think it's been interesting because I haven't had, I literally went freelance at like the beginning of the pandemic. So when I lost my job, and I had been wanting to make that jump for a long time. So it was sort of like a blessing in disguise. I think one thing that I've done is even that I found helpful is even when there's not paid work, I try to treat like everything I do as kind of like the way I think about work. So if I don't have something to work on, that's going to be contributing to me financially. I've still treated my own kind of special projects and passion projects as work, and thought about them the same way, documented them the same way, shared them in a similar way, so that I kind of maintain a habit of kind of like discipline around my work and like in the same level of like investment, even if something is not like going to like come back to me financially.
I think it all comes back. Whatever you put out there, it all comes back to you. So it always does pay off. I just had to add that.
I'll go. I feel like I was freelance not by choice. I think when I was coming up in the industry, especially within fashion, to land a full-time role was kind of like very rare. And, it was usually done between like nepotism or targeted forms of flattery. And I just didn't have that. So I kind of had to kind of tap into different skill sets of myself to kind of juggle all at once that made a lifestyle for myself. So that was my entire creative New York experience. Like, so to be in a pandemic where all of this is like virtual and, still like this moment of like suspension, I'm kind of used to it, oddly enough, the virtual thing and all of that is a bit more accelerated, but I'm kind of used to kind of being uncomfortable and not knowing where things are coming and kind of like pulling from all ways of life in that way.
I think being a painter, I was sort of freelance already, so that wasn't such a change, but to try to find different ways to communicate and show my work was definitely a big challenge. And I think maybe finding a why behind the work was a challenge as well. So in the beginning of our lockdown here last spring, which was really, really strict, I talked to a humanitarian AIDS organization and I made work for them, just trying to find ways to get actual work into actual people's hands and give it some sort of meaning when all the context for what I usually do completely dropped away, it felt like. So that was an interesting shift for sure, but also a lot of just networking and hustling and figuring out how to adapt to a totally different environment suddenly. Yeah.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, Jared.
So I'm having some connection difficulties, but yeah, if you can't hear me, I'll have to mute my video. But this, I think, was a lot easier having already done freelance in the past, because just working for yourself in general comes with like a certain level of uncertainty all the time. So I feel like this level of uncertainty was just kind of like another day in the life. But what really changed for me was thinking about why I was making the work I was making. I think time this year to think about society, our own lives, our own places in the world, and the kind of things that we want to support. So that was the biggest thing that I've tried to adjust through this year is becoming more intentional with my thoughts, my words, my to how I spend my time.
Okay, I have a question for Fizz and David. I wrote it down. It may sound bad, but so what is and I'm sure, so I asked this question because I'm sure a lot of artists are curious. What is the initial feeling or the push that gives you the decision or the confidence to fully commit to freelance? Because a lot of people ask, like, is it possible, or how is it, or how do you do it? And I want to know as well, like, what is that feeling, or what is that push that tells you, I can do this, or I'm going to do this?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for me, it's two things. I think number one, it's like seeing other freelancers and what they do. I follow so many inspirational people on Instagram. I see their work and the flexibility and freedom and the creativity that they just embody and show and display. It makes me want to be a part of that crew, and I want to join them too, because you're really restricted when you're working full time or in-house. As a freelancer, you're able to decide, well, hopefully, like if the work isn't really low, you can decide what you want to do and what you don't want to do, and you build your own portfolio, your client base, and you kind of are able to go in a direction that you really want to. When you're in-house, you do the work that's sort of given to you, that's a part of the brand that you're working for or whatever. So it's really difficult to kind of create your own identity. And I think that what gave me the confidence to do it was I've been doing this work. I've been in this field for over 10 years. So I've built a really great client base, a good network. And so I know that I can do the work, and I've hired a ton of freelancers who I've worked with. So I know that I can put on my business hat when I'm talking to a client and presenting in front of a client. I know what they want, I know what they're looking for. And I feel like I've had that grounding and that sort of training working in-house. But then as a freelancer, I just felt like I could do both. You know, like I said, looking at my peers, seeing like what amazing work they're doing, and just really just believing in myself.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think for me, I had been working in a job for a long time, sort of like opposite of Fizz, but working a job for a long time that I wasn't my passion. And I was an elementary school like art and science and design teacher, and I thought that was like what I was supposed to do with my life. And I all this time had like really been pouring my passion into like the things that I truly loved, which was like my creative studio, Pink SA, like my furniture that I would build, all these things. And I found myself like questioning. I was like, why is it that this is what gets all my passion, but it isn't occupying most of my time? And when I lost my job at the beginning of the pandemic, I was sort of like, so I can either go back and kind of like apply for a new full-time job, or I was like, or this is like the sign that I needed. And thankfully, there were a lot, even though it was a really hard year in many ways, there are a lot of situational blessings financially with like unemployment money here in the United States and like other situations that allowed me to like make that leap. And so I'm very grateful and acknowledge that situation. But I think it was just really about asking myself. I also just turned like 30 like a year ago, so I was like, you know, this is my life. Like, what am I gonna do with it? And it's kind of was like a now or never. And I guess I never looked back.
I'll be 31 this year. I can fully relate to you.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I think especially what both David, Fizz, and Elle have said about kind of like going freelance after being in a full-time position or like surrounded by people and realizing that you can't always make it work unless you take it upon yourself to do that. I think that's an interesting like way to lead on to my next question, really, which is, you know, in the face of ongoing certainty and the changing circumstances that have come with this year, but also, I guess, do pre-exist the pandemic as being a freelancer, how do you both sustain your creative intention and your like finding the inspiration for your work, and how do you balance that with I think Marta mentioned the kind of like dealing with the mental fatigue that comes with being a freelancer and sustaining your practice. So maybe, I don't know, Marta, if you wanted to go first.
Yeah, I guess for me personally, one of my main issues was that I have a 2.5-year-old son. So to find myself suddenly without daycare or someone to watch him was really pretty big organizational issue to resolve. But I think, you know, at first I just really didn't know what to do. But I think the thing that got me through this past year was just to stop and like take a breath and not panic, but to say, okay, well, you know, everything is solvable. You just have to figure out why and not let it overwhelm you, and find the solution instead of looking at the problem, because there's always a solution if you look for one. And then just to sort of rearrange what your expectations are realistically in a time when everything is sort of flipped upside down on you. And yeah, just to sort of find the right way to frame things, you know, so that you don't get overwhelmed, to sort of help yourself along, because no one else will figure it out for you. So just to sort of ease your way through it, but not give up, you know, to push without pushing too hard, I guess, if that makes sense.
Peyton, go ahead.
I would say for me personally, during this change, it's allowed me more time to slow down and really like re-envision my visions and spend more time with myself, even more so, and just regroup and also slow down and just really take in the things I love, and that has allowed me to also get away from the fatigue and all of that, like, you know, not all constantly creating, but actually going to the things I enjoy and even revisiting things that I once enjoyed that I may have not had time for anymore. And that has definitely helped me through this time. And I feel like it's very necessary. And I'm sure that a lot of artists and a lot of freelancers can attest that this time has caused them to slow down just a tad bit. But I feel like times like that are very needed to just like regroup.
I have a question for you guys actually. But you can answer this after you guys have answered the first one. It's really just about creative burnout, and at a time where it might be like reflexive to slow down after you finish something or you're in the middle of something and you haven't quite cracked it and you just feel kind of exhausted. How do you guys kind of inspire yourselves again to kind of keep going, especially during this time?
I feel like that what you're asking really goes into what I just said about like really taking the time to find inspiration in other things that we love, and just, you know, if we reach some sort of block, it's good to pick up a book you enjoy or a new book, or watch something that inspires you, like, you know, go towards a different medium that's not your own, and just find inspiration in that. Because if it's hard for you to create, maybe you're not inspired, or maybe it's just not the right time, and sometimes you just have to find that spark in other things. And I don't feel like artists need to be creating every day. I feel like you'll definitely be burnt out unless you truly want to. And, you know, but I feel like with your passions, you can get burnt out. So you do need to visit other mediums and things like that.
I agree with that too. I mean, you know, a lot of my work is film, but I really love photography. I love beautiful images and just the composition of it. And so I feel like a lot of the work that I do is grounded in photography. I'm not a photographer, but I just, yeah, I could just look at pictures all day. And I did experience like just a creative block a couple of weeks ago. I was writing a treatment for a grant proposal. So I'm trying to get some funding for a documentary that I'm working on. And I had shared it with someone who gave me a lot of feedback. And, you know, when the feedback's really general, it's like, oh, I need more of this energy here. It's not specific, which is really hard for me because it's like the whole thing's just wrong. It's just not giving you the emotion, and I couldn't express it in words, but I know that I can visualize it and I know how great this film's going to be. And so I was stuck, and I said to them that I would send it back in like 2 weeks. And I'm not a writer, but you know, I feel like I know how to communicate. And so it was really tough, and everything's sort of riding on this person just like willing to take a chance on me and my executive producer to say, yeah, I'm going to invest in you guys. So yeah, it was really hard because I was like, I don't even know what to do. I don't know what to write. So I had to stop. And I knew I had 2 weeks, and I just gave myself like 2-3 days. I just stopped writing. And exactly what Peyton was saying, I was trying to find inspiration in different things. So I watched a few films. I was looking through photography, still images, and reading a lot. And, just looking at people that inspire me and the way that they communicate things. And I thought to myself, what is it I'm trying to communicate with this film that I want to do? Who does this really well? So I started watching their work, and then it just came to me. And then I just started writing, putting it together, but I still wasn't really happy with it. And I sent it to that person, and she was like, she read like 2 pages. She had to stop and call her husband because it was amazing. And I was like, what? Like, really? I still couldn't even take it in. And it was like, I'm going to see, I'm not a writer at all. But yeah, that kind of just really helped. I knew I needed to stop and just take like 2-3 days. So that was really helpful.
Jared, in your application for the talk today, you did mention that the one thing you wanted to talk about is how uncertainty inspires creativity. So it'd be really cool to hear like what are your thoughts on this.
Well, after you.
No, I was just going to say it might be easier if you. I don't know if anyone else is having it, but it might be easier if you do turn off your camera just for the audio, if that's okay.
Can you hear me okay? Is that smoother?
Yeah, we hear you perfect. But we love you, Jared, and support you, and you're a beautiful human being.
Yes, sir.
And we would love to see you.
It's nothing personal.
Zoom, it sucks. We love you.
Yeah, in regards to like, the last subject of how I've stayed creative through this year, it's been a lot of taking myself away from this intangible world of art and ideas and, kind of dreaming of like the things I want to make, thinking about what I should make, and putting myself back in more of a grounded state. And I've done that through a lot of exercise. I think that's something that we neglect often as freelancers because, we don't have a healthcare plan per se. I think that our insurance sometimes is our health and our mental well-being. And so, just eating right for my body, learning more about like what makes me feel inspired, like the things around me, the kind of water I'm drinking, kind of food I'm eating. And sure. I think, we've all been indoors a lot this year. So just going on runs, taking myself out of my, that's been amazing. But yeah, what has been inspiring me? Just make things that impact people more. Making things that make people want to learn more about themselves and reconnect with the earth or reconnect with friends, family. Yeah. I think that may cover some of your questions. I don't know if you guys have more. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can.
Oh, I'm back.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Back on. All right. I don't know what you heard or missed, but I can fill in any of the gaps.
Say the last part of it.
What was I talking about? I was talking about I think that may cover things that I'm ingesting, can you hear me? I don't know what you heard or missed, but that may have came up. I was talking about just are things that are inspiring. Is it cutting out again? All right, I gotta.
Also, if anything, type it too. Uh-oh, now you muted yourself.
The last thing we heard was making things that have more impact. And then that's when it started cutting off on our end.
Yeah, same.
That was the most important thing. But yeah, I think what I mentioned was that's what I've been trying to aim for this year is just doing things that have more of an impact, things that are less frivolous, doing stuff that's fun just to keep like the creative and but also just trying to think more about all of this.
I have a question. So, I mean, speaking of that, have you guys all found that slowing down has changed the way you approach your work, in terms of what the impetus is to make something for you guys? Has that changed maybe, at a time where you can kind of reflect more?
I'll go. I will say I personally like to slow down, and I think I've started to enjoy how things come to me and how slowly they come to me. And I think I owe a lot of it by moving my environment. Like I was in New York, and then pre-pandemic, like October 2019, I moved back to where I'm from, Atlanta. And so here I'm kind of in a bubble, and there's not that much of a creative community that I can really tap into like I could in New York or like I could in LA. So it forced me to slow down without me having to do much. So when I'm able to do that, I find that I'm not looking over my shoulder. I'm not looking at my peers. I'm not looking at the press. I'm not looking at, getting ahead of myself. I'm more so just trying to tap into the things that truly inspire me and really just tap into my imagination even in a bigger sense. And that helps me process it. If it takes me a week to come to something, that's fine. And I feel like at one point I kind of rushed myself to kind of get these ideas out or to create at a certain pace. And I just find that slower can sometimes be better.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm for those of you who are into astrology, I'm a hardcore Capricorn. So I love to go really to like measure myself by my own productivity, and it's not a great habit. But slowing down has really, I think, allowed me to be more mindful of when I'm kind of flowing with the universe or against it, and noticing when something feels right creatively. And I think instead of being so concerned with pumping work out and being concerned with producing something, I'm now noticing more like, does it feel right? Does it feel purposeful? Does it make sense for who I am as a person? And does it reflect my ethos and my morality and my creative process? And through that, I have ended up like kind of stopping some projects or saying no or completely reconfiguring them. But in the end, it makes it so much better.
Is this how you think you'll work moving forward? Maintain the pace that you're at now, regardless of pandemic or not? Eller, David?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think it's healthier. I really do think it's healthy to kind of pace yourself and to not get ahead of yourself. And I think we all are kind of conditioned to kind of like generate without taking that time to kind of, recalibrate and be re-inspired and offer something new. And so I think the slower, the better, to be honest. I feel like we live in a world where there's so many things out there that the things that we offer now, moving forward need to be a bit more considerate, need to be a bit more full, and not just something that was rushed in that way.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I would love to keep it up. I think I want to like encourage the people in my life to like hold me accountable to that too, by like making that really kind of external. So like saying that aloud to them, to the people that I work with and my friends and my family, that like that's an intention that I have. But also encourage them to approach their work in the same way, because I think we could all benefit from that.
I would say I agree with the slowing down because I've acquired that myself. I would say it's helped me with outreach towards other artists and getting to know their practice and connecting with them and spending the time to learn what other people are creating out in the world. And you know, that's what I've really appreciated. I've learned a lot about what people are making since quarantine started. And you know, people are making some of the most beautiful work right now. And to be doing something right now is to be doing the impossible. I've been saying that since last year.
I would just, yeah, I'm wary of time for Marta because I know that she's got to go in 5 or so minutes. So I think on the back of what Cary has just said, it would be really, really interesting to hear what you think about this, especially as, you know, you're currently at Numero Venti where Cary's been previously and stuff like that. It's a lovely place.
It is. I've been up here a lot lately, so it's been really, I feel really lucky. I think it's in some ways things actually sped up in a way that I would have never expected. But at the same time, I really, really agree with what David was saying about just even if you think something is going to move forward, you know, it very well may not at a time like this. So it gives you a moment to really reflect. And I think I've learned to listen to my intuition a lot more this year, whether it's to say yes or to say no to something. And I think in the end, your gut always will tell you what's going to work and what doesn't. And you kind of are able to get rid of the things that you're doing just to do them. Maybe just to keep going, keep moving, keep producing, keep feeling like you're doing something for the sake of doing it rather than for like a reason with maybe more substance that's truer to you. So that's been really, really helpful actually.
Speaking practically, when you start working on a project as now, do you end up working every day on it until it's finished, or do you kind of listen to that gut and just work when you feel like it's useful or productive?
I try to work on it every day just because it feels good to have a rhythm. But if it doesn't feel right, I try to let myself sort of just like stop and take a rest. But it's hard, right? To stop. Sometimes that's the hardest thing. I usually, after I put my son to bed, I try to stay up as late as I can and just work on whatever I can. And the last 2 nights I went to bed at 9. So I was like hitting a wall and I was like, all right, it's not good. It's not productive. It's not helpful. And so I let myself just really stop. But I really had to like force myself to just slow down and take those 2 nights to really rest. So it depends on the project, I think. But yeah, I'm trying to let go and just feel out the actual rhythm of something rather than what I want it to be.
Fiz or Jared, was there anything that you wanted to add to this question, or Peyton as well?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think that the most important thing that I've sort of done is to create authentic accounts of where I am at right now in my life. So that if it's the pandemic, I'm using that as inspiration to tell like true, authentic, honest, raw stories. And I'm seeking those stories because I want to know more. I want to be connected to people in deeper ways. So I'm listening to podcasts, I'm watching what other people are doing, I'm watching loads of documentaries, not so much like the story of COVID or anything like that, because that's kind of like, you know, we haven't even reached the end yet, so I don't know what your ending's going to be. But you know, I'm kind of, yeah, just like using that to tell stories. So for example, I was working on a project at the beginning of this year which was about Indian female doctors who were on the front lines of COVID. And that was an interesting take on just frontline workers, but looking at Indian female doctors specifically and learning about different cultures and different approaches and just things that they had to do differently and their family dynamics and what that looks like and how they were responding to COVID was an interesting story for me to work on. And you know, right now I'm working on a feature doc, which is about 5 black and brown cyclists who cycled an underground railroad route from Alabama to DC. So they did that, you know, in the middle of a pandemic, before the elections, in the sort of midst of global protests, you know, for racial justice. So there was a lot going on, but that's really given like the meat to the story. Because if we had filmed that in 2019, it would have been a completely different story. It wouldn't have had the same energy, the same perspective, and even some of the restrictions that we thought we would have. I mean, most of us live DC, New York, so we went to the South, and it was crazy, but it was very interesting, and it makes for a very interesting story. So if anything, I'm just sort of using, you know, where I am to kind of tell very interesting stories.
I think this year has created an opportunity for especially artists that aren't the typical image of what Western society has deemed to be, you know, artists. We've had a lot of opportunities, and because we've had all these opportunities, we've had more leverage to involve people in projects and have more creative freedom in things. So that's something I've really enjoyed this year is, you know, when people want to work on you, with you to do this thing because of who you are or the community you're a part of, who do you know that can be a part of this thing? And being in a position to connect those dots and see people that I've been admiring their work for so long, be able to, you know, do something on a different kind of platform. So I think there's been a lot of cross-pollination in different genres as people have been able to, you know, really take the reins on projects. And I'm excited to see what that creates going forward in like a new generation. And I'm excited to see what that creates. I listened to Lil Wayne early on in his career, but he used to hop on like all these different remixes of songs, and it was this possible to really do anything, you know. So that's what I hope that we're doing now, is we're kind of creating remixes of different forms of art. It's like, you know, this person is working in this space, but they might collaborate with this other person, which means, you know, maybe we can do that in different sectors of the world and things like that. So yeah, that's what I've been happy about this year, seeing that happen.
Peyton, did you have anything to add to this at all?
I think you may be frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be frozen.
It looks that way. We can come back to Peyton.
Okay.
I just wanted to check, Marta, are you okay for time?
Yes, I am actually. I'm okay. Thank you so much.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. So, oh, Peyton, are you here? No.
She'll probably join back.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, just quickly then, I would like to move on to something that I think is really something that a lot of you touched on when you got in touch with us about participating today, and it's something that's come up a lot, maybe indirectly throughout this call. Something that Elle mentioned specifically was young fashion brands and digital technology and whether they should be using them. And I think that's a really interesting point, that throughout all of your different practices, it would be interesting to hear what you think about this in your own different ways, in terms of like as a creative, as a freelancer, but also as a tool for communicating, collaborating with others and building up your work.
Yes. So right before the pandemic, I started a apparel brand, and it's not necessarily a fashion brand, it's more apparel. And so early on, we realized that technology was going to be our biggest, ally in this because of the team. We were all kind of placed in different places. I was a founder. My business partner, he's a founder. He's in DC. I'm in Atlanta. Our designers in Sweden. So we kind of had to rely on, Zoom and all the tech aspects of it. But also when it comes to creating a fashion brand, a lot of times people don't have the upfront capital to, fund a 30-piece collection or, to fund these really big, assortment. And so once you start to use like 3D technology to kind of, now you can create 3D renderings of your garments before you actually produce them, that starts to kind of change the game in how your supply chain starts to work. And so it's kind of made us a bit more thoughtful in what we start to actually put into the market. I think with brands that already exist, they kind of have these systems that can kind of pump out an idea as soon as they get it. But with us who are, younger brands, we kind of have to prove that product, through different phases to kind of make sure that it fits and it aligns. Can you kind of read back some of the questions so I can make sure I'm touching on most of it?
I think you're muted.
Yeah.
Wait, Ellie, I believe
You're muted.
Ellen, you're muted.
Hold it down.
Sorry, I thought I muted myself.
You're good.
There we go. Yeah, I think that does, and like kind of, also it'd be interesting to hear like a little bit about like, things like, on a general, like, I guess, day-to-day level, like how the impact of digital technology more generally in terms of like, coming together and like on Zoom or for example, like right here, right now. But yeah, that I think you answered the question as well.
Yeah, and I would say, something that we missed out on a lot of times when you're creating products, you get, second opinions, you get people to actually try on the garments or to actually be there in person. And that's something that we weren't able to do, So we kind of tapped into like data statistics to see what is the true measurement of the normal average human, So we started to look more into data more so than like real life measuring, So that was something we missed out on. And so, but that's also a way that we could have innovated, to kind of do things moving forward. And, with fashion brands, everything exists. I feel like we're at a standpoint where, couture has been couture, ready to wear has been ready to wear, but now there's a sense of what else is there. There's a lot of talks of digital garments, gaming garments, all of these things that people are starting to use nowadays that they necessarily didn't think about 10 years ago. So I really do think that with apparel and tech, and honestly with any type of product, that technology is going to be a really great tool to use to get things out.
Before anyone like jumps in, I just wanted to see if Elle's seen the question in the comments about your top. It's something that everyone's asking about.
It says, Elle, I love your top. Did you make it? Yes, I did make it. My brand is called O Studio Design. It is a technical knit, so it's created on a knitting machine. And so with this, you can literally, create a 3D rendering and then transmit it to a printing machine to actually print it out. And so, yeah, we've been doing this about 2 years now. And so, and also it kind of goes back into the nature of what fashion is right now. A lot of times we aren't getting dressed up to go to galas. We aren't getting dressed up to go to family dinners or anything like that. We're kind of relying on whatever our uniforms are. And so, O Studio Design is kind of the answer to the uniform and what you will wear day to day.
Before we get lost in the sauce on these questions, on this chat, we did have a question for Marta, and it was, it just reads, a question for Marta specifically regarding if you've had any experience doing painting commission work through social media, and if there's any tips or things to avoid when setting something like that up. And that was from Kel Bernardo.
Yeah, I've had several commissions via social media. And I feel like this may be really obvious to say, but I think the best thing is to just make sure that everyone is on the same page in terms of pricing and how that will roll out and shipping and timing before you begin. And also just to be like very clear with the other person about what you're making, because when it all happens through a screen, it's hard to be specific, and maybe they'll send you like a screenshot of something they like without really saying what they like about it. So to just sort of be patient and clarify everything, even if it takes a while before you begin. But I've always had a good experience, I have to say. So that's been very cool, actually. I hope that helps. Are there any other questions anyone has about it?
Elle, we're gonna have to speak about these this techware after this call, so just be ready for that.
Do you mind if I add something or ask, kind of say something about what Marta said? Is I was just thinking about a lot today. I was talking to two of my people who work on my creative studio with me, and just how I think I had such a negative relationship to like social media and connecting over the internet. But I think this past year has really like reversed my relationship with social media, in that I feel like so many of the interactions I've had in making specific connections with individuals has been so positive, and how I've even like made friends through Instagram and people that I've ended up talking to on the phone and in real life. And like that to me is like one of the most special things, because I think as a culture, we have such a particular relationship with social media. But I think this is an opportunity this past year to like think about it differently. And I felt like such a strong connection to so many people through using social media, and had a lot of really incredible interactions.
I think that's a really interesting point. I mean, even how many of you mentioned at the beginning that like you came across this panel through, well, we advertised it on social media, but how many of you kind of followed Cary or whatever, have like built up friendships with Cary over social media? I'm wary of time because I know Cary's got to go in 4 minutes. So just to round up, it would be great to hear if Fiz, Jared, or Peyton, you've got any closing remarks on digital technology, and then we can finish up.
Yeah, I guess my thing is just like really, I used to sort of hide behind my company social media, so I didn't feel like I really had to do anything. And it's been a real awakening for me, because I'm just like, oh no, everyone wants to know who I am and what I do and what I'm about. So I had to quickly scram together, like my website, and making sure that I had more of a presence on Instagram. Like, all my pictures were just stuff of like home and family and stuff. And I'm like, no, this isn't it. This isn't what I want to communicate. So like having to completely revamp that, and it's fine, starting again. I'm starting again and just revamping everything, because I know it's really important, but also just like embracing new digital technology is what I'm also trying to do. So I joined Clubhouse. I'm not sure if it's for me or not, but I'm there and I'm connecting with people and I'm listening and I'm speaking. So I'm trying to embrace it. And I think that especially if you're in this freelance world, you want to do that. Basically, like David said, it's amazing the connections you form, people that just sort of reach out to you and you can partner with, collab with, is just awesome. So I think it's just, really important to do, even if it's out of your comfort zone.
We have, well, let me add on to what you had to say, Fiz. I, in the same way, I was anti Clubhouse and TikTok, but this year I downloaded both because with technology evolving, we kind of have to stay up to date with how we're going to show our work. So, being open to these new ways of sharing our work and figuring out ways to do it where we enjoy it. Aside from that, we did have a question earlier from Robert, and it read, "How do you negotiate for fair compensation? How do you ensure you are not overvaluing or undervaluing your contributions as a freelance artist / creative?" And real quick.
I would just say you have to take time to, well, first maybe research others whose work is somewhat similar to yours, and see the general amount things are priced at, and then you have to reflect on what you think your work is worth, and stick by that, because if you don't do any of those things, you may be put in a bad position. I know when creators are starting out, they're very excited when they meet like someone who's very big in whatever realm they're doing, and they might get so excited they don't talk about any pricing, or they don't ask about any technicalities. And I feel like that's very important to bring that up, even if you feel like, oh, this might be awkward or this might be weird, because it'll be beyond weird. It'll be tragic if someone you admire or you work with, you just don't get compensated, and somehow your work gets stolen or something like that. And I feel like that's very important to have some sort of idea and put that out there, and just be clear about that. But and if for some reason you're working with someone and they don't take on your pricing, or they want to kind of lowball you, I feel that you'll definitely find someone who will be willing to pay for your work, and you shouldn't settle just because someone you admire, just someone you want to work with, tries to lowball you. Because you will find someone who's willing to pay for your originality and all of that. So I hope I answered the question.
Can I just add to that? I always, someone kind of said to me, like, say an amount to yourself in the mirror that you don't laugh at. So you just keep going up and up and up and up. And I know that I was like, because I would always talk about my day rate, and I wasn't sure like how to just value myself or my day rate. And so now I feel like I know how to say an amount that I just don't laugh at anymore. I laugh at 100K a day, but one day I won't, right? One day I won't. But that's basically what I do.
Real quick, I'm dipping off. I have a meeting right now, so thank you all for your time. We're also thinking of doing a part 2, so let's figure out a way we can get everyone's schedules aligned. But thank you all.
Thank you so much, Cary. And thank you.
Also, I wanted to. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, Cary.
I just wanted to add to. I wasn't. We quickly moved on, but I wanted to add on to like the discussion about digital and how we've been navigating with that. I would have to say, for me personally, I've always been into social media, keeping up with all the new things like Clubhouse and TikTok and things like that. Like, I'm on it, but I'm not frequently using it, just because I'm just not super connected to those things like that. So me personally, I feel like although as an artist you have to be up to date with a lot of things, like I feel like you shouldn't feel like pressured to be super active just to keep up. I feel like you should just go about whatever you think works best for you and really hone into that. And yeah, that's just what I think. Like, although I'm on those things, I have a life outside of social media, so I'm not gonna spend my time like, okay, now I'm gonna be on Twitter, now I'm gonna be on Instagram, okay, now let me move to Clubhouse to have a discussion, and let me close off by making a TikTok. Like, that's just too much. So that's just my opinion. I feel like if you do have the drive to do that, of course do that, but I think I just can't do it because I don't there's only so much of myself I can give. So, and I feel like I give a lot in my art. So I just let that speak for me. But I do really appreciate social media. I'm able to reach so many people. I've been able to connect with so many great people in my fields. And yeah, I really do love it, but I can't, I feel like giving too much to it is definitely mentally exhausting, especially during a pandemic. Like, I mean, we're mostly at home, or we had been for the most part. So it's easy to just be so caught up in digital, but I just have to break away at a point.
Yeah, I think that's a really valid point. There's only so much that you can give. Mohammed,
we were just in support of what Peyton was saying. We're like, yes, that's the one, Peyton. That's the one. Like, genuinely, I'm like, if y'all want to find me, come find me. I'm making things. Like, I'm not a quiet person. You go find us. Genuinely. But back to you, Ellen.
Unless anyone's got any like final points to add, I think that's a really good place to end. There is only so much you can give. Jared, did you have anything to add?
I was just agreeing with that point.
Perfect. Yeah, then I guess.
That point, absolutely.
I guess that.
Too much. That's it.
I think you just cut out there.
Look.
Was there anything else that you just said? It just cut out.
No, I'm good. That's it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I think Peyton needs to go as well now. So yeah, I think we'll end there. But thank you so much, everyone. It's been really, really interesting. And as Cary mentioned, if anyone wants to take part in a part 2, we'll be in touch and just let us know, because it'd be great, I think, to go a bit deeper into this. An hour isn't that long. But yeah, thank you, everyone. And
Thanks
thank you
so
much.
Thank you.
Take it easy, y'all.